It's a special John Lund Unleashed 49ers Camp Report edition. Shout out to Lund loyalists watching on YouTube, those watching on X, Instagram, Facebook, and JohnLundUnleashed.com, and the Lund Lunatics listening to the podcast on Apple and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe and like John Lund Unleashed on YouTube and keep those alerts on so you don't miss anything. Now with the latest on the 49ers and the NFL, here's Johnny.
What's happening? Thanks for joining us. We're going to be quick tonight because in about an hour Pacific time, well, anytime, in an hour, I'll be on ESPN Radio at about 8:30, and we'll be talking Niners there. So join me here. Let's talk Niners for the next hour. The latest, Niners have a big trade. Well, big is probably too strong a word, but they make a trade. Today, they still need to fortify the receiver position. If it's another day, it's another injury for the 49ers. We'll get into that. Not great news for Demarcus Robinson, who's had a really, really nice camp. Maybe Ricky Pearsall from the outside having a little bit better of a camp. But Demarcus Robinson from start to finish, maybe the best wide receiver in camp this year for the 49ers. And you got to give him credit because he stayed healthy and most did not. So we'll get into that conversation as well. Not great news, like I said, and the 49ers can't appeal that. And he actually got more than we thought he was going to get. So that is not good. Hence the trade, hence another injury. We'll do that as well. When are some of these guys going to get back? We keep hearing from Kyle who they are. The vibe in 25 versus 24. Kyle had an interesting thing to say about that as well. And then we'll get into some trades today, and it's starting to happen. And I don't think the 49ers are finished. A really cool moment for Tyson Bagent, the backup quarterback for the Bears, which was pretty cool. And Trey Lance is coming to town on Saturday as they wrap up the preseason. So we got to do that as well. And then something from the Cowboys documentary that I have not seen fully, but a good friend of mine was on there. And so I had to play it back to you, and this is the way you get traded. So good evening. Good evening. It's about 7:30 Pacific time. Thank you for joining us. John Lund Unleashed on YouTube. Maybe you're watching on X at John Lund Radio, which is great, and I appreciate you tuning in. But if you'd move over to YouTube and hang out and come over to the chat room and say hello, and make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, that would be outstanding. Please also make sure that you have those alerts on so you know when we shoot out new stuff. And if you did us with a like tonight, that would be tremendous because that helps the algorithm. So thank you. You could be watching on the Bay Area Sports Collective on YouTube, on X, at John Lund Radio, LinkedIn, Facebook, however you're watching. I really appreciate it. We really appreciate it, the team here at John Lund Unleashed. But if you would come over, hang out in the chat room, say hello, that would be awesome. So good evening to everybody. And as I said, I'll be on ESPN Radio in about 60 minutes. So we'll probably do about a 50-minute version tonight. Love to get your thoughts. Remember, questions, comments, thoughts, hit them right here. If you're live watching the show on the chat line, again, you do not have to have the same opinion as me or anybody else. We like to have a lot of fun in here, and we keep sports in their proper perspective. So have fun, whatever. You don't have to be a Niners fan. You can be a Seahawks fan or a Rams fan or whatever, and we'll give you grief, but it's a lot of fun. That's what sports are all about. So welcome to everybody. First and foremost, we'll do roll call out here in just a second, say good evening to everybody. But like I said, it is always a lot of fun in the chat room. So if you'd come over to the chat room, please say hello if you've never been in here before. No one will bite unless you want them to. Let's start it here because this is the best part to start. East Coast Red and Gold podcast. Very cool to see my friends there. And we'll be doing, I think, a congregation. I think Krug is in. I know Damon is in because I was on Damon's show yesterday, Damon Bruce. So, yeah, I believe we are doing a congregation. So make sure that you are subscribed. Hit the like on East Coast Red and Gold podcast as well because we'll join the crew there and we'll have a great time. Baba Booey is here. Hey, now. Oil is here today. You tripping is always great to see you. Enrique. You got to roll that. Tuba Sun God. Very cool to see you. If I have not seen you before, I think I have, but welcome, welcome, welcome. It is great to see Mark back in the house. So as everybody's coming, we'll make sure we say good evening. And there's one of my favorites with a super. And if 100% you want to get your questions, comments, or thoughts on the show, just hit with a super like Fuji just did right there. I will text Larry Kruger. Sorry, I was out of town last week, the last minute, doing a lot of other stuff that we're growing the show and doing all these things. So I was out last week, but Krug told me, I should just say this. Krug told me he was in for this week. So yeah, Fuji, we're looking good for this week. So we'll have a lot of fun and talk some Giants on Friday night. If you don't know what that's about, we do a Friday Night Giant show during the show or during the game, and we just have a lot of fun and drink beers. And the more they score, the more fun it is. And so it's a really good time had by all. So if you check that out, we would love that too. All right. Good evening to everybody, and thanks for joining us on John Lund Unleashed on YouTube, episode 222. As you see, the trade, and let's start there. Skyy Moore, and you remember him. He was with the Chiefs, didn't do much against the Niners. In fact, in the Super Bowl in Vegas, he didn't even play. Did catch a touchdown in a Super Bowl against the Eagles for the Chiefs, kind of a in-out route where he caught one. He was uncovered at the goal line on the left side and scored a touchdown there. He's a former second-round pick out of Western Michigan, and he just really hasn't popped for the Chiefs as much as a lot of people thought. Now, 5'10", 195, he's only 25 years old, so there's a little bit of upside there. It's just a pick swap, a 7 for a 6 kind of a thing. In fact, here it is right here by Albert Breer. Skyy Moore in a 2027 7th, and the Niners for a 2027 6th. And so not a lot, and he's in a contract year, so maybe he can do something. I think what it does first and foremost, guy's got 4.4 speed, really good kick and punt returner, which I'll show you in just a second. So right there, that's really Junior Bergen, somebody like that, somebody they drafted out of Montana. Maybe a practice squad guy. He's not going to be their main returner because I think Skyy Moore is probably that kick and punt guy that can do that. As far as him being a receiver, because they lost another one today, which I'll get into in a minute, he's more of a slot guy. He's a speed guy, quick guy. Like I said, 5'10", 195. He's not going to be the X. He's not going to replace Brandon Ayuk. He's not going to beat out Ricky Pearsall. Maybe not. There's enough time for him to be a factor in Seattle in the receiving core. Again, he's more of a special teams guy. So I wouldn't be surprised as we're starting to see a lot of trades. Problems here. There we go. We are back. Maybe. Yeah, it looks like we're back. But, Skyy Moore is not a guy who's going to solve the 49ers wide receiver issues. I still think they got to get Jennings back. They seem to be confident that he will be back. I'm a little less confident than they are. Again, it's more contract than it is calf at this point, but we shall see. But let's assume and be positive, be half full for a minute. Jennings, Pearsall, and I don't know. I don't think Skyy Moore is going to be in the slot and beating out a guy like Russell Gage. So Skyy Moore to me is a not bad addition for the special teams, and to be determined a TBD as far as helping out the receivers. They are extremely thin, but Skyy Moore, despite the fact that he was a second-round pick and has only been he was a second-round pick out of Western Michigan in 2022, he just hasn't popped that way. And my thought would be, well, if you're playing with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, and he hasn't made you good enough to really pop, he has 43 receptions in his 3 years in the NFL, then are you going to really pop here? So, yeah, it's a depth piece. It's more of a special teams piece right away. And to back that up, this is what he did last time out. Our friend Kate Scott on the call. She's calling games for the Seahawks in the preseason. Give her a break. But here is Kate Scott with a call. Skyy Moore last time out against the Seahawks last week.
A big part of what's going on up front for this Seattle Seahawks offense.
Great punt by Michael Dixon. No surprise there. This is Skyy Moore streaking down the left sideline for Kansas City. And Skyy Moore is going to go all the way to the house. Touchdown, Kansas City. 88 yards.
So, again, it's not the most challenging punt return. He juked one guy and then round down the sidelines, beat the punter. And, look, it's 88 yards. He's got decent speed, but you can see he can kick and punt return. So I wouldn't be surprised if in Seattle, once again, as he scored that touchdown in Seattle for Kansas City last week in the preseason, that Skyy Moore would also be returning kicks and punts again in Seattle, week 1 for the 49ers. As far as the wide receiver core, he could play slot. And if it's Pearsall outside, Jennings outside, Moore, would he beat out Russell Gage? I mean, we're getting to that point where, man, it is scary as far as the receivers are concerned. And Matt Mayoko did a nice job with this today. Our good friend, Matt Mayoko here. Most single yardage of all the 49ers receivers. So Ayuk in 23, Chosen. I don't think he's going to make the team, but there he did in Carolina in 20. There's Juwan Jennings last year. Russell Gage, and we forget about this, and I've told you the whole time, Russell Gage with Atlanta and Tampa before he had some major injuries, 72 catches, 786 yards. I mean, he's been a player in this league. If I was a betting man right now, and I am, I would say that probably Russell Gage is going to be the third receiver if we assume, dangerous, ask you me, but if we assume for a minute that Jennings will be back, then Gage is probably the third receiver. Robinson is irrelevant for the first 3 games. I'll get into that in just a second. There's his best season, and that was last year in LA. Pearsall is going to smash those numbers. In fact, I'm going to say that Ricky Pearsall, 75 catches. See that 75 that Ayuk has? Especially given that they don't have a lot of receivers at the beginning of the season. Pearsall is going to catch 75 for over 1,000. Hodgins, that's another guy that, look, he's a veteran, and I think that he'll make this team because of that, because they're so short at receiver. But then after that, I don't know that he's going to be here all year. And then there's Skyy Moore, and there's Turner, and there's Cowing. Last year, Cowing had 4 for 80, and one of those was a 41-yarder. So he hasn't had a whole lot. As speaking of Cowing, so nice job, Matt Mayoko. Speaking of Cowing, he re-injured the hamstring today. And I don't want to sit here and be like, I'm right, and I told you so, and that, whatever. I'm wrong a million times because I yap so much. But the thing is that with Cowing, he's been hurt so much. And again, I'm not going to put him in some kind of category, but I keep saying this to you. How many 5'9", 175-pound guys do you know that are making a real big impact right now in the NFL at the receiver position? He gets hurt a lot. He's a skinny guy. It's not 5'8" or 5'9" or 5. It's not that he's not tall. It's just if you look at him and you look at his legs, for example, he's just a really thin guy. And now that he has another hamstring issue, he re-aggravated the same hamstring, he's probably not going to play week 1 in Seattle. So scratch Cowing off that list, add Skyy Moore, which is why they have the desperation. And to me, it's going to be Russell Gage as the third. And they're getting to the point, the 49ers, because I keep telling you this, I think it's more contract than cap for Jennings. They're not going to do $20 million a year. They're not. So they're at a real impasse to me. Throw the calf out. And I'm not calling the Niners liars, but throw the calf out. All of a sudden, if they get a new contract, it's like, oh my God, it's a miracle. I'm cured. That's what's probably going to happen. So look, man, if they can work out some sort of a middle ground on the contract, Jennings, Pearsall, the way he's performed, and Russell Gage potentially, and maybe they can get Skyy Moore up to speed, or Hodgins or somebody like that, they can be okay with McCaffrey, with Kittle. They can be okay. And then later in the season, you kind of keep things going. But one thing I would say is that I don't think they're done. Skyy Moore, I think, was kind of a piece where it's like, look, here's a guy going into the last year of his contract. He's only 25 years old. He's got 4.4 speed. And at the very worst, week 1 in Seattle, we've just upgraded our punt return, as you just saw, and kick return game. And he's a piece of depth that we can, teach enough to that he could play in Seattle if he had to. He's kind of a break glass in case of emergency guy, but he's not making a ton of money. He's in the last year of his deal, and he's number 1. He's going to upgrade the punt and kick return game. And you've got injuries there, and Bergen, I'm sure they weren't real comfortable with. Remember, it's not so much kickoffs, and teams are going to, they're trying to make teams kick the ball in play so that, in that safe zone and all that kind of stuff, so they bring it out. So that's fairly important, but it's punt returning. And when I tell you all about Kyle, and I use the word trust constantly, trust. Are you going to trust your 7th round pick out of Montana to return punts, muff one, and screw you up like, Ray did in the Super Bowl and maybe cost you the Super Bowl and 18 other things that happened that day? But they'd rather have a guy who's done it before, and that's where Skyy Moore comes in. So I think that, everybody gets excited because it's a receiver. I look at it and I say, okay, it's an emergency guy as far as the receiver position, but it's really an upgrade as far as the special teams, which, what did we talk about all off season, is one of the major things. They bring in Brant Boyer, and they want everything to be improved. And here's just another version of that. So I get it. He's a receiver, but at this point, he's break glass in case of emergency. I don't expect a ton out of him, especially early in the season. As far as being a receiver, I do expect him to be a member of the special teams and upgrade the return game. So there's that. So more from the Chiefs, more trades. Let me pop that up. And again, I don't think that the 49ers are done, but this is what happened today. Skyy Moore comes our way. I do wonder if they were in play for the Broncos receiver, because this guy's a bigger receiver. He's not a return type of guy. Moore is more of a smaller guy, even though 5'10", 190, he's not tiny, but he's more of a return guy. Valet, the guy that New Orleans got from Denver for a 4 and a 7, which is a lot for a guy that maybe wasn't going to make the team, because that's what you start seeing at this point. Everybody starts looking at the roster going, damn, we have excess. And Denver obviously has excess receiver, but New Orleans gave up a 4 and a 7, which is quite a bit for a guy who may not have made the team. And this is a guy I really like, Harrison Phillips. Now, he cost $4.2 million, but the Jets get him, and he's a stuffer. So, we're looking at Alfred Collins and West is hurt and all this kind of stuff. And my thought is that, man, again, you never know how these trades work out, but I like Harrison Phillips. He'd been a nice plugger in the middle for the 49ers, but the Jets get him. So this isn't going to be the end. This is 3 trades in one day. This is going to start happening basically every single day because teams are going to start calling around now going, okay, well, we got an excess at this position. I don't think the 49ers are done. I was looking at corners today. There's a guy like Chidobe Awuzie, who's a Northern California guy that's a second string guy. He's had a lot of injuries. Started in Dallas and was really good out of Colorado. And then he's had injuries, was in Tennessee last year, is in Baltimore this year. And they've got good corners on that team. And so I'm looking at that going, well, there's a backup guy that maybe I'm looking at veteran corners. I'd love a veteran corner for the Niners. So I don't think they're done. I don't think they're done at receiver. I don't think they're done at corner. I certainly wouldn't be done anywhere on the defensive side because I have so much youth if I'm the 49ers on defense. If there's more defensive linemen who are more proven than my rookies, which is everybody, I'm going to get into the injuries in just a second because you have to. I hate talking about them, but you have to. But they've got a lot of youth there. If there's a veteran safety that I could use an adult in the room on my back side of my defense where if you make a mistake, the other team gets a touchdown, I'd love a safety that was a veteran. I'd love a corner that was a veteran. And don't get me wrong, Kyle said this the other day. Look, if there was guys who are flat out ballers, they wouldn't be free or they wouldn't be getting, trade bait or anything like that. So you're not going to get the top of the top here. That all of a sudden, Trey Hendrickson's not coming to the Niners. But I mean, you look at the kind of situation they're in, and they did this a few years ago with Gibson on the back end. It's like, you pick up a guy late, maybe he can help your team. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Niners looked at a couple of veterans on the defensive side, and they are certainly in the wide receiver market because, as I keep saying, Moore's not a bad piece. He's a depth piece, but I think people have it wrong. He's going to be a return guy to start, and then we'll see from there. So anyway, there you go. I will hit up let me get to the chat line a little bit, and then we'll get to some other things, including Cowing and Robinson, which were big news today outside of the trade that they moved. Or the trade that they did. Let's see. Hey, Tacky, what's going on, man? Nick, it's good to see you, my friend. By the way, if you got any names, let me know. Anybody that you would like to see. Danny, it's great to see you. By the way, I was in the Valley over the weekend. Hot. But you know what? Sat outside, had a few misters, a couple of cocktails, didn't even notice it. It was like 101 or something. Are you serious? Is this true or is this no? Is this not true? Roop just tore his ACL. Is that true? No, come on, that can't be true, can it? That wouldn't be good. God, this season getting worse for the Niners. Do I have to look there? Excuse me, for the Giants? Do I really have to look this up? Somebody say that that's true or not? That would be too bad because then you just come back. My goodness, man, that would be awful for the Giants. It's like, God, the season is just like out of control. Hold on, just 1 second. Let me just make sure that is true or not. Where's my Giants list? There it is. Landon Roop was carted off the field after an apparent left knee injury on this play. Oh, non-contact. Gotta hate non-contact. Hold on, let me see this one more time. Plant leg. Oh, that's not non-contact. The ball came back at him. Oh, that's great. My Lord. I mean, seriously, their season has just turned into garbage. My God. Yeah, that didn't look good. It didn't look good at all. Wow. Woo. Man. All right, let's see. Okay, we're just double checking on that. Okay, good. All right, let's get to a couple of the things that happened today. So Jacob Cowing, I told you about another hamstring injury. I'm just sorry. I don't know if you feel this way, but I'm going to write him off. And then as far as Demarcus Robinson, as I said, he's been the most consistent, best, and healthiest wide receiver in camp. And we were all talking about 2 games for him. We're thinking, okay, he's going to miss the first 2 games of the season, but by the 3rd game, he's going to be back. Well, the NFL gave him 3 games, and Kyle Shanahan was talking at some of the press conferences like, yeah, they might be able to appeal or something like that. There's no appeal here. So Demarcus Robinson is out for 3 games. So Demarcus Robinson out 3 games. Juwan Jennings is, I don't know. Ayuk, all of a sudden you're looking at this whole thing. Watkins, who looked really good, especially after a slow first week of camp, in my opinion. All of a sudden he's out, high ankle sprain. Those things at least take a month, if not that. And obviously that's one of the reasons I got Skyy Moore. But, man, you're looking at this thing going, man, just killing you. So today, Demarcus Robinson gets one more game than you thought. Jacob Cowing, another hamstring. I know that I shouldn't do that, but I'm just like, he's just not a very big guy. And I'm not going to call him injury prone because that's not fair to the dude, but he wasn't very effective last year. He had 4 catches for 80 yards, and one of those was on a 41-yarder. So what's that, 3 for 39 in his rookie season? And I know he's got good speed. He's a 4.38 guy, but he is extremely small. And the best thing, honestly, he does, return punts and kicks, and they just picked up Skyy Moore. So I don't know where Jacob Cowing fits. Even though he had good OTAs and Kyle was talking about him a lot, he's small, man. And there's not a lot of guys, as I keep saying, that are his size that are effective in the NFL. So the Demarcus Robinson thing, as far as the receivers, I don't know who made the deal with the devil in the offseason, but I mean, they just get kicked in the nuts every single day when it comes to the receiver position. Cowing comes back, he's hurt. Juwan Jennings shows up that first day. We all took video of it. We're like, yay, woo, Juwan Jennings. And 3 days in, oh, my calf. And it's like, okay, dude. Like, it's one thing. The first couple of days, I was like, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm not going to call the guy, I'm not going to say he's faking an injury. But all of a sudden now we're at the point where it's like, he's still not out there. There's no question in my mind. It's not a calf. It's a contract. And I know this for a fact because I talked to people at the beginning of this whole thing. They were optimistic that this was going to get done. And then their camp started saying, well, geez, he's using their leverage, and I get it, but he's the de facto number one. And the Niners are going, yeah, well, that's true until Ayuk comes back, or maybe until Pearsall takes off, which I wouldn't just give the number one wide receiver position to Juwan Jennings. I think Ricky Pearsall, like I told you, is going to have a hell of a year. So maybe you're a 1, maybe you're a 2, but the reality of it is, hey, man, he's sitting there playing his leverage game, and I get it, but I'm sitting there going, Mike, it's got to be something. I don't know why I'm disappearing from there we go. Yeah, I mean, they're getting to that point. And you know what's funny? And look, I'm not going to tell you what to do. You do you. I use that term all the time, but you do you. But, all the transactions, like everybody on social media, every transaction that the Niners do, they throw up there. And I don't know, I can't imagine if the Giants did that kind of stuff. But it's like, I don't care. I don't need to see every single Niner transaction because I know that the guy they just picked up, they're going to cut in 2 days. Like all these different guys, they're just trying to get through camp. They got 90 guys, and you would think that would be really easy. But when you have 20 injuries, it's not. I mean, can you imagine if they had to do cut downs like they used to do, where it's like they slowly cut down? The reason why they have 90 is because they want to not play all their guys all the time, and they want to use guys that are going to be mailmen and UPS drivers so that they can keep their guys fresh for the regular season. And the Niners can't even do that because they have so many injuries. So that's the major problem that's going on right now as far as the Niners are concerned. So Robinson misses 3 games. The wide receivers are messed up right now. Here is Kyle with the latest on the injuries and how it has affected camp.
I mean, it's stuff that we look into every year. We'll try to even look into it more after this year, but we haven't even been able to have the training camp that we normally want to have because of the injuries. I mean, it's not like they just all happened one week. They happened pretty early with the number of guys and stuff, and just the way our schedule's gone with our scrimmages, with having these games and the off days and traveling. I don't feel like we've had enough of the training camp practice to say that we're going too hard. But obviously we have too many guys down. So we got to look into all that stuff and figure out whatever we can do better.
All right, so that's Kyle, and that's what a lot of people are talking about as far as the 49ers are concerned. What are they doing? Why are the 49ers injured? First of all, a lot of teams are injured. But you know this, and I'm just going to remind you of this, okay? Kyle uses the term callous. He likes the team to be calloused. And so while most of the teams in the league and everybody, compared to 10 years, 20 years, whatever the case may be, training camp isn't what it was. They don't do 2-a-days. They don't tackle to the ground. They're not in pads every single day. They're in shells, which is shorts and pads most days. They do a walkthrough later in the day. So basically their day is watch some film, go out about 10:30 on average, stretch a little bit. We come in there as a media. We watch everything. We scribble away a few plays and blah, blah, blah. Then we go into the auditorium. Either Kyle, Robert, or Brent Boyer come out. They get interviewed. Then they pick a few players on that certain day, and everybody writes or does videos or whatever, and that's your day. But then the Niners come back out with no media, and they do a walkthrough. So, it's not like they're crushing each other. I mean, look, I'm not going to say this. I played high school ball. I sucked. But I played high school ball, and you have those 2-a-days, and it's like, we're not even going to give you water and all that kind of stuff. They don't do that. They're not doing that in the NFL. But as far as on the scale of today, comparing apples to apples, The Niners have a tougher training camp than most. So does that contribute to the injuries? Probably. But, I'm looking at, and I'm going to talk about Mikael Williams and some of these guys that are supposed to be coming back and they're not. Mikael Williams, hyperextended knee. That's not in Kyle or working hard. That's a freak thing. CJ West, that's a freak thing. Dominic Pooney's on field goal team, hurts his knee. That's not a Kyle thing. That's not an overuse thing. So, Jacob Cowing and a hamstring, that's not an overuse thing. I mean, the one thing I would say is they've had a lot of muscle injuries. So they got to look into that. I don't know what stretching is or whatever the case may be, but that's just, that's just kind of the way that it goes. So that's where they got the injury. So Kyle saying, look, we'll look into this thing. But you know what? The last couple of years, that's just what they've done. I mean, they've done that the last couple of years, and they say the same thing every single year. Yeah, we're going to look into it. But they still have the injury. So that's what it is. I'll play more of Kyle in just a second, but let me just go through some of the things. One of the things that concern me, and I hate to talk injuries every single night, but right now, Mikael Williams, Kyle said he was going to be back in a week. It's been over 2, still not back. And it's, he's not a kind of guy like Bosa. And I'm not going to I don't really discuss Bosa a lot because I know it's a neck injury and all these different things are going on. But as far as Bosa is concerned, look, he can show up week 1. He did it a couple of years ago when he had his contract issue. I'm not really worried about Nick Bosa. But Mikael Williams needs the reps. Mikael Williams needed to play in a preseason game. He's not going to. CJ West, not going to play in the last 2 preseason games. Like those kind of things, when you're talking about rookies, reps are important. So I look at the hyperextended knee, and Kyle Shanahan said a week. It's been over 2. I look at CJ West. He's not going to play in this preseason game. That's going to be a while. Ben Barch, according to Chris Forrester, the offensive line coach, the left guard job was his to lose. He's still not back. And did you see Connor Colby just get absolutely railed by Tyree Wilson, the failed first-round pick of the Raiders? I mean, he absolutely trucked him. He tried to go up high in the guy. Wilson forklifted him into Brock Purdy, and it was like, okay. And I told you this last week. I'm like, that's going to be next. He's going to move in with the first team. He played pretty good against Denver in the preseason game. They're going to put him with the first team against the Raiders, and they're going to see what he's about. He got smoked. And that wasn't the only time. About 3 times. So he's not a viable guy at left guard. So now that's making you a little bit nervous. So they got to get Barch back. They got to get Mikael Williams back. They got to get West back. Stout is still not out there. And I said early in camp, I'm like, this thing's over. Throw away the key. The nickel spot, that's Upton Stout. Well, now the way Chase Lucas has played into preseason games, and I know it's preseason, but he's played really, really well, and he's made impact plays, and Upton Stout is still not practicing. And look, I'm not panicking, but every day Kyle comes in and says, no, Stout still isn't practicing. Mikael still isn't practicing. CJ still isn't practicing. Bart still isn't practicing. No news on Jennings. It's like, how many players I just mentioned there? About 6 or 8? It's 22 on the field. So that's a major, major problem. And when you're talking about guys like Williams, West, Stout, Barch hasn't played very much in his career. Those guys need reps. Jennings can come back right before week 1. Let's say they get a contract done the week of the Seattle game. That's okay. I mean, it's not optimal. He might get hurt, but him and Brock have played it together enough to where if it's Jennings coming off the beach with Pearsall and Gage, for example, that's okay. It's not great, but it's okay. So I expect Jennings to be back with these young guys. That is a killer to be losing those kind of reps. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Let me talk about vibe, because this is kind of an interesting thing. So last year, and this is what I have on the chalkboard there, 25 vibe versus 24 vibe. And Kyle was asked about it. And, I said this at the beginning of camp, but then all the injuries happened and I kind of lost that vibe myself. So I went in and we were talking to players a lot and just the way things felt and the way, last year was the hold in and all these kind of things. But then all of a sudden 25 is injuries, camp injury, and Juwan Jennings is doing a hold in like Ayuk was doing a hold in. And I'm just going, oh man, not again. It's just kind of giving me a weird vibe. But here's Kyle talking about it saying, hey, the vibe from 25 versus 24, totally different.
This year than last year, and not just because of how our mood is in camp. We knew that when the season ended, but you could really see that in free agency. You could see how the draft went and stuff. We were really turning over a lot of this team. So the vibe that we brought into this offseason in OTAs and stuff, with adding a lot more youth, a big change in a lot of the people, not having as many people had been here through this whole run. It changed so much then, and that's continued into camp. A lot of young guys have stepped up. A lot of guys, I always feel when you have the veterans, we have veterans who all work hard. So it's not like I ever have to get on veterans to do more in practice. Our guys go as hard as they can. But vets are vets. It's a little more fake and false enthusiasm than anything else. They're not really excited about camp. So when you have young guys out there who are making plays and stuff, to me, those are the loud ones. Those are the ones who inspire the vets. And that's what I've been a lot more excited about this year. We have a bunch of guys doing it. I think we've had a little more on defense than offense. Some of our young guys on offense have been hurt, so we haven't been able to get that much out of them yet. But I know it will come as this year goes.
I'm excited. I got to be honest with you. I get often asked, how many games do you think they're going to win? And I was on with Damon Bruce yesterday, and we talked about how many games you think the 49ers are going to win. And I was thinking to myself, at the beginning of camp and looking at the schedule, which it's the easiest in the NFL, there's only one playoff team from 2024 coming to Levi's Stadium, which is the Rams. Now, there are some tougher games than you think, like going to New Orleans in week 2. Yeah, the Saints stink. They've got one of the worst quarterback situations in the league, but you have to go across the country to New Orleans. You go to Tampa Bay, that's not easy. You go to Houston, the Texans are probably going to win their division. That's not going to be easy. But, these are games that the Niners could win. But given all the injuries, but one thing I will say about the injuries, so let me back off the injuries for a second and say this, which is, as Kyle continues to say, they're not season ending. All right. Juwan Jennings comes back, you breathe a sigh of relief. The big one that I'm watching right now is Green, Renardo Green opposite Demo Lenore. If Renardo Green comes back and builds on his rookie year, and Demo's Demo, and Stout's what he is, and Lucas has looked pretty good, and I'd love to get a veteran safety, but then, okay, I can feel a lot better. Look, Fred Warner, D. Winters, they're going to be fine. I love what D. Winters has done in this camp. I think he's going to be fine. He's going to be Dre Greenlaw? No, but he's going to be fine. The defensive line gives me worry, but again, Bosa to me is going to be great. Huff is going to be great. I have a sneaking suspicion that on the inside, they'll be a lot better. It's going to take a minute, and Mikael Williams needs to come back and get some reps, but okay. The defense, we've talked about it a million times, is going to get better and better as the season goes on. So, I'm feeling middle of the road as far as the defense, but I think the offense is going to score a lot of points. Brock is going to bounce back, and for some reason, he's always a lightning bolt as far as the national media is concerned. But to be honest with you, I don't give a shit. I mean, I really don't. One thing that'll make your 49ers season a lot better this year is if you just don't listen to the talking head shows when they talk about Brock Purdy, because honestly, they don't know. And Anthony Richardson is something I'm going to talk about in the NFL Wire, but I mean, he's the opposite of Anthony Richardson. Height, weight, speed, everybody freaks out and they love what could be. But Brock Purdy played the years Brock Purdy sees it. He has had such a good camp. And I know it's not everything, but Brock has had a great camp. And remember, Watkins going down, Jennings being out, Cowing going down. Like, it's not easy day after day after day to look good in camp the way Brock has, and yet he does. And a lot of it's with the same guy. I mean, he and Pearsall are they're on the wavelength, which is why, like I said, I think Ricky Pearsall, maybe he'll catch 80, 90 balls. I said 75. I mean, against Seattle, especially if Jennings isn't around, he's going to catch 10 balls in that game. I mean, he's going to be targeted probably 12 or 15 times. I mean, if you got to, like I said, if you're in a fantasy league, which most people are, I'm not saying that you take, Ricky Pearsall early, but I wouldn't be surprised if you took something, you took him late and he was crushing it. I wouldn't be surprised at all. So anyway, Kyle likes the vibe though. Let me go back to that. Kyle likes the 25 vibe versus 24. I'm just a little bit nervous. Lots of people have asked me, well, what do you think? Well, they're not gonna be 6-11, 6-11 like they were a year ago. But the real key to their entire season, honestly, because I have total trust and faith in Kyle Shanahan late in the season. That whole callus thing, and they're getting banged up. I have a lot of trust because Kyle's proven it late in the year. And if you look at their schedule late in the year, like the Panthers and they're going to smoke a lot of those teams. They might be at 500 at one point. They might be something like 5-5 through 10. And you're going to be going, these guys aren't going anywhere. And all of a sudden, the defense is going to gel. It's my prediction. They're going to be like 5-5, and then the defense is going to start to gel. And they're going to score points, and Ayuk's going to come back, and all of a sudden, they're going to go down the stretch, and 5-5, so that's 10 games. They'll go like 6-1 down the stretch, right? So that's 10, 11 games. I still think they're going to do that because Kyle, this vibe is different. Last year Trent's holding out. McCaffrey wants more money and obviously wasn't healthy. Brandon Ayuk, there was just a weird vibe around the whole team. Everybody's having, even though they have these injuries, it's not really permeating throughout the team. Like, God, we're missing 20 guys, but nobody's really had a negative attitude about it. So we'll see. But I still think they're going to go in 10 or 11, but you're going to call me crazy through like 10 games when they're 5-5, but I think they'll finish strong. Give me your thoughts on that as well. All right. So that's what's going on as far as the Niners. More injuries. They trade for Skyy Moore, which is nice, but he's going to be more special teams than he is wide receiver, and then he's emergency break glass. Cowing hurt again. Robinson gets 2 games instead of 3. Just another kick in the nuts for the wide receiver group. And then the when you see on the chalkboard there, Mikael Williams, when? West, when? Barch, when? Stout, when? And then the biggest question mark, and like I said, it's contract more than calf. That's Jawan Jennings. And then 25-5 versus 24. So that's what's going on today with the 49ers. Like I said, if you want to tune in to ESPN Radio at about 8:30, about 30 minutes from now, I'll be doing a preview for the 49ers. So we'll hit that. Before we go to the NFL Wire and talk about a bunch of stuff on the Wire tonight, everything going around the NFL. Plus, I did watch a little bit of that Cowboys documentary. I got to get to more of it. But that's part of the Caboose pistol tonight. So there you go. Somebody's asking what they gave up in the trade. There it is right there. Thank you, Albert Breer. Skyy Moore in a 27-7 for a 27-6. So they're just pick swapping. And like I said, it's, it's a second-round pick. The guy's in his last year. He's 25 years old, got some upside. He's probably going to be returning punts and kicks in Seattle in week 1. And then if they need to break glass in case of emergency, he'll play a little bit in that game. I don't think he's going to beat out like a Russell Gage, who I think is probably going to be the third wide receiver in that game, but we shall see. All right, so that's what's going on. Give me your thoughts, question, comments on what's going on with the 49ers right now. Are you talking about that documentary, 49ers Die Hard? Are you talking about that documentary? Because, yeah, I got to check that out. But I do have a piece of it, which I will play for you, that's hilarious. Kyle's not the most coy guy around. I'll say that. He wears his emotions on his sleeve, and you pretty much know what Kyle is thinking. I certainly am going to watch the documentary. I just haven't gotten around to it a lot yet. The thing is that this. I mean, my God, there's so much good stuff on TV right now, like on all the things. And when I get done with my day, and then because I'm doing nights too now, my wife is like, can we just sit down for like 30 minutes and watch something? And I'm like, all right. I don't know why anybody would want to hang out with me, but she does. That's why I played that thing, the fire, the training staff. That's why I played that thing with Kyle, because, this happens every year and it's not going to change. They believe in callous and as hard of a camp as you can have. They probably have the hardest. It's not what it was. We all understand that, but comparing apples to apples, they go pretty hard, and he believes in it. And look, you look at his record, December record, end of the season type of record. It does work. And the one thing Kyle can say is, and we can sit here and panic and talk about injuries every night, which I think sucks, but nobody's out. Let me cross my fingers. Nobody's out for the season. There are a lot of rookies, though, missing valuable reps. And I think that's a huge thing. They are missing valuable reps right now. So that's a big deal. I don't know why I keep popping off the screen. My apologies for that. I don't know if I said hi to Chris or 49ers Red Zone. It is great to see you all tonight as well. Thank you for tuning in for episode 222. And again, any more questions, thoughts, comments on the Niners, the injuries, excited about Skyy Moore, Cowan getting hurt again, Robinson with the 3 games. That's a killer. I got to be honest, the Robinson thing, we'll go back to that for just a second. If he is there for week 1, and I'm going to assume Jennings. If their week 1 lineup just for fun was Jennings at receiver, was Jennings, Cowing, Robinson, they'd have no issues whatsoever. Just sucks. I mean, the DUI thing, 3 games, I think that's excessive. I can be honest. Like I'm not excusing drinking and driving, but 3 games, that's fairly excessive, I think, given what some guys get for when's Rashee Rice playing? Is he playing all the games, right? Rashee Rice, who was drag racing on a Dallas highway, caused a massive accident, leaves his car in the middle of the road, walks away. And I'm pretty sure Rashee Rice is playing, right? He's playing week 1, but Demarcus Robinson gets a DUI and doesn't play the first 3? What? I mean, it doesn't work like the U.S. court system where there's like a precedent and it's, Robinson v. this or Rashee Rice v. that. Like, they don't do that. But that makes 0 sense. That Rashee Rice can do that shit and put lives in danger, which drinking and driving does too. But he literally is drag racing down the Dallas highway. They wreck into a couple of cars. People get hurt, causes a big scene. And then he gets out of the car and walks away. And I don't know if you remember that video. He's like, what? I was like, huh? He's playing games? Really? All right. Whatever. So that's what it is. What else do we have today? Like, yeah, I'm not a Cowboy guy. I mean, like I said, I covered the Cowboys years and years and years ago, but I'm not a Cowboys guy, but I'm watching that. Yeah, there's no doubt. I'm watching that. But, my wife isn't going to watch it. So I got to find some time to watch it. So there you go. Yeah, I did see that, but a lot of people are thinking that he's going to play in week 1, and I'm just like, that makes no sense. But again, Roger Goodell is judge, jury, and executioner, so that's the way things are going to work. So there you go. All right, that's the latest on the 49ers. Let me hit up a little NFL wire. Let's widen out the lens a little bit.
It's time for a look at the NFL stories making headlines. It's the NFL Wire on John Lund Unleashed.
All right, like I said, there's the trades today. Skyy Moore goes to the 49ers. New Orleans gives up a lot to get themselves. But that's a bigger wide receiver. I would love to have seen the Niners get that kid. And then Harrison Phillips. I know every time there's a trade, we all sit there, I want that guy. Harrison Phillips would have been great. He's what Alfred Collins is supposed to be at some point, which is just plug up the middle, Harrison Phillips. That would have been nice for the 49ers. I would love more veterans on the defense, but there you go. A couple of 6th-round picks and then a 7th, so they don't have to give up much. And Harrison Phillips making $4.2 million is not a ton of money. So I said this earlier, I'll say it again. I don't think the Niners are done. I think they could use veteran defensive linemen. I think they could use a safety. I think they could use a veteran backup corner because if there's any more injuries back there, that's going to look ugly. Offensively, man, a veteran left guard wouldn't be bad because Ben Barch hasn't been healthy and Connor Colby isn't ready to play. So a veteran left guard, anybody, anyone, that would be really nice. So I don't think they're done in the trade market. Skyy Moore is not a bad get. If you just joined us here on John Lund Unleashed, Skyy Moore is not a bad get, but I think he's going to be returning kicks and punts in Seattle in week 1. Don't know that if he's going to be in the wide receiver rotation. However, if the things keep happening like they're happening, he's better than the handful of wide receivers they keep cycling through and that are not going to be contributors on this team that are basically camp bodies until they get down to the numbers so that they don't have to play everybody. And that's what happened again today. They signed a couple more guys. It's like, whatever. Don't care. They're not going to be around long enough for you to remember their names. So there's that. The coolest thing I saw today in the NFL is Tyson Bagent, the backup quarterback for the Bears. And you're like, what the hell? What does that matter? Caleb Williams is the starter for the Bears. So, I mean, what is talking Bagent? What does that mean? He gets a 2-year, $10 million contract. And in today's NFL, and in today's world of sports, 2 years, $10 million, what does that mean? That's coins in someone's couch, right? Well, not to this kid. Listen to this. This is Tyler Bagent, gets a 2-year, $10 million contract. One of the top 10 paid backup quarterbacks in the league, came from Shepherd College, and gets a nice contract extension. Me and you would be really happy about it. It's small as far as the NFL, but this money is big to him and his family. This is cool.
Yeah, I think that, a lot of people don't know this, but, my dad is he's my right-hand man, and he didn't even have running water until he was in high school. So there's definitely a lot of things and people that I think I could certainly help with this gift I've been blessed with. But yeah, just little things like that. Like, I don't really know anybody back at home with any money. So, yeah, it feels good. I mean, it's certainly a weight off my shoulders and my family's shoulders. And yeah, definitely.
Sorry for my French, but how fucking cool is that? I mean, here's a kid that knows the value of $1. Dad didn't have running water until he was a teenager. Comes from a really poor family. Obviously, people around poor, and $2 and $10 million. I mean, guys make that in a couple of games in the NFL. But this guy's like, damn, are you kidding me? And I don't know, after taxes, pays an agent, something like that. Maybe the kid pockets $5 or $6 or $7 million, whatever the case may be. But I mean, for him and his family, that's everything. And it's pretty awesome. And this probably won't be his last contract because he's had a really nice preseason. He's a nice player. Backup quarterbacks in this league. I mean, most backup quarterbacks, I'm not asking you to win 17 games unless there's a major injury. And there'll be a couple of quarterbacks that have major injuries this year. But for the most part, what you ask your backup quarterback to do is, look, our guy's going to miss 2 games. He's got an ankle sprain or something. Help us be competitive or win 2 games or go 1-1 or just so that we don't tank it, or 3 or 4 games, whatever the case may be. That is the majority of the time with a backup quarterback. And he's looked nice. He started games and the Bears didn't have a quarterback. I mean, look, he's a young guy, but 25-year-old guy, 2 years, $10 million. Most people be like, whatever. couch cushions for some of these guys who are making all the money in the league. But for a guy like that, who's like, my dad didn't even have running water until he was a teenager. That's life-changing money for him and his family. Awesome. Really cool. Best story of the day by far as sports is concerned today. Trey Lance is coming into San Francisco, and we've talked about him a ton of times. We'll do this more as the week goes on and the game gets closer. But so far this year, or this preseason, 296 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 rush, touchdown, and he's completed 55% of his passes. And what I guess is funny, because I guess people are doing this just based on the highlights. I've seen both touchdown throws by Trey's had 3. He didn't have 2. He has 3. And look, they've been good throws. I'm not saying that they haven't been good throws and everything, but this whole narrative that somehow Jim Harbaugh has discovered something that Kyle Shanahan could not uncover could not be further from the truth. I know friends who cover the Chargers. I asked them how Trey looks, and they're like, he's okay. He's not ripping up the league. He's not, it would be a major downgrade if Justin Herbert got hurt. They don't play Justin Herbert in the preseason. Everybody's enjoying that Trey Lance is having some success. And it's the same thing, and they tie Anthony Richardson in here, and it's really hard because now Richardson's a different story. Comes from Florida, University of Florida, big timer. Trey, obviously, North Dakota State, didn't have a lot of, played 7-on-7 high school football. He was the best athlete on the field in his division, and so it was one read, mainly to Christian Watson of the Packers. Okay, he's wide open. I throw it. He's not. I run. I'm better athlete than anybody on the field, and that doesn't require learning how to play the position right. Then he gets to the NFL and doesn't figure it out. It's not necessarily his fault, to be honest. It's the system, and it's broken. There is no minor league system like there is in every other professional sport. There is nowhere to learn. And after you wash out as a first-round pick, you're not going to get another chance unless there's major injuries. But Trey Lance was a third stringer in Dallas, was a third stringer when he left here, is the second stringer behind an Iron Man quarterback. Remember, Herbert last year, was it the year before, had cracked ribs, and he's like, I'm playing. So he hasn't been hurt, and Lance probably won't get a chance to resurrect his career to any type of a level other than maybe being a backup. But how does he get better? Because once the season starts, 90% of the snaps goes to the first teamer. Maybe you're going to run the scout team, but that's not your offense that you're running. You're running the other team's offense. And so Trey can run that, but it's not going to make him a better quarterback. So, you look at Anthony Richardson right now. Daniel Jones is going to be the starter for the Colts, and Richardson's looking and everybody's like, oh, they're going to trade for Richardson. Great. Trade for Anthony Richardson. He didn't stay in school long enough. He has the height, weight, speed. It's the whole Al Davis thing. People can't resist it, even though you look at Brock Purdy and everybody goes, what can Brock do? I don't know. Read a defense, get rid of the ball quickly, go through his reads. He plays the mental game as well as anybody in the league. And that's a superpower, yet everybody looks at Anthony Richardson and says, oh, my God, I'd draft that guy in a second. Guy was barely a 50% thrower in college. He thinks that same thing as Trey Lance. He thought, you know what, I'm going to get into the league at 6'4", 245 with like high 4.3 speed, and I'm just going to run over everybody. Yeah, it didn't work. Got hurt a lot. It doesn't work. It's just you did that in college. You can't do that in the NFL. You've at some point got to become a pocket thrower. You've got to learn to play the position. So how does Anthony Richardson develop now? Because the Colts gave up on him. Now, if Daniel Jones gets hurt, maybe he gets another chance. But the likelihood is at the end of this season, he's gone. He goes to another team. He's not a first-round pick. He's not going to get a chance to start. They're not going to treat him like a first-round pick. That whoever picks him up, we didn't take him in the first round, so we'll try to develop him. But most of the development comes in the offseason, in OTAs, in preseason. Once the regular season starts, in the Chargers case, Herbert's going to start. In the Colts case, Daniel Jones is going to start. You can run the scout team, which isn't our offense. And so you're not learning how to run an offense. They need a minor league. Offensive linemen need it. Corners need it. Receivers need it. Like, the reason it takes a year or two for a guy to blossom, why I think Pearsall is going to be so good, there was the injuries and all the weird stuff that happened last year. But regardless of any of that stuff, it's like, look, it's going to take a year. And so they need a minor league system. I don't know why the NFL can't do it. I know why they don't. The reason they don't is because the NFL owners are like, wait a minute, we have to fund a minor league? Not doing it. Well, think about it like this. You're investing. If you're the 49ers, well, maybe you don't blow that number 3 pick if you invest in a minor league and Trey Lance can play in a spring league that's like, okay, you're the NFC West, and everybody runs a version of the Kyle Shanahan offense. So have a version of the Kyle Shanahan offense and some, a basic defense, and where guys can get better. And all of a sudden here we are, and you're feeding into the league. Every other league does it. There's got to be a way to do it, and the NFL doesn't seem interested. Well, then that means that you're going to be 50-50 on first-round picks. It means you're probably going to be 30-70 as far as failure rate on quarterbacks. It means that your quarterback might get killed because most offensive linemen that come into the league. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, Russell Cross, really good left tackle, young left tackle. The Seahawks, they're looking to maybe upgrade, extend him. But he came out of Mike Leach's offense at Mississippi State. That's not an NFL offense. That's run and gun. And so he didn't learn how to block. So it took him like a year or two to learn how to play the position in the NFL. Meanwhile, the Seahawks are paying him like a top 10 pick that he was. I think he was the 9th pick a few years ago. But now he's finally at the age of 25 learning how to play the position. If you're an owner, wouldn't you just want to invest in that position? I mean, after all, it's protecting your quarterback's blind side if he's a right-hander. So you would think. So I don't know. I don't know why the league does. I mean, I know why, because it's financially, they wouldn't make a lot of money, or if anything. But I do think, and I can ask you this, like if you knew that your players were, Trey Lance or minor league Niners are playing in that kind of a league, I think you'd watch. Because I don't have a lot of interest in those, in those leagues, except for the fact that then my team has a minor league guy in there, and I want to watch Trey Lance play because he never got a chance. He's never going to get a full chance again unless Herbert gets hurt this year. That's the only chance, and it would be by bad luck. If Herbert stays healthy, Trey Lance is never going to develop because his time is over for this season. He played in the preseason. He got snaps in training camp. Once that happens, 90% of the snaps goes to the first-team quarterback, and you can run the scout team. And it's just hard. It's hard to develop that way. So anyway, Trey Lance coming in this weekend. We'll talk more about it this weekend. All right, I got to be on ESPN radio in about 10 minutes. So let me play a sweet, clean, family-friendly Caboose pistol. And if you watched the Cowboys documentary so far, and like I said, I got to get on that. This was part of it, and I think it's hilarious.
John Lund Unleashed presents the Caboose pistol.
Wedged in the crack of her buttocks.
Somehow, someway, Lundo thinks this is the best way to leave a final impression on you for the day.
The old Caboose pistol, everybody has one.
Did you say Caboose?
I know some women who could hide a machine gun in there.
Yeah.
Leave me out of this, you weirdo. Here's John.
Let me hit a couple of chats here. I will do a sweet, clean, family-friendly Caboose pistol here to end things. But it's a good point. They started my league and everything in a squad with a practice squad and undrafted free agents, Niners, decals. I'd watch. Exactly. Just kind of like the European League, like you said, they have a kind of a logo of that team, and it's like watching minor league baseball. Like, okay, I'll check it out. Yeah, I agree with you, PJ. Like NFL Europe, and again, I know it's expensive. You can keep it stateside and just have like an NFC West team, like every division, whatever. I mean, you wouldn't have very many teams, but like, for example, if Trey Lance played in it or any of the young players on the 49ers, I mean, think of how important the 24 class developing for the 49ers is. The 25 class developing for the 49ers is. I mean, these guys would get real coaching. Like right now, one of the big things with quarterbacks is there's an allotment of time that you have to have off. It's in the player's contract. So like that 40 days that I talk about. So the last OTAs to training camp is 40 days. And so especially with quarterbacks, they train and do all those things, but they get with a quarterback guru. And it's like the team says, help me do this and do this. But a lot of times they'll come back and they'll screw things up. And it would just be nice if you could be like, look, you're coached constantly, get better. I know you want to take time off. I get that. But it would certainly be worth the investment, both for the team and the player. But anyway, enough of that. All right, let me do this. The only reason I'm playing this is I saw this online. And as I put on the Caboose pistol right now, this is how to get traded. And this is my good friend, Bill Romanowski. I used to do pre and post game for the Raiders with Romo for years. I have a Romo story to tell you as part of the Caboose pistol after this. But here is, if you didn't see the Cowboys documentary, here is Bill Romanowski. This is how Charles Haley made his way to the Cowboys. And Eddie DeBartolo has told me this on radio shows. This is the worst move that he ever made as owner of the 49ers, and he doesn't care if Charles Haley did this 10 times. He wouldn't have traded him again.
I heard that Charles walked up into the general manager's office. He pulled out his dick, pissed on his desk, and said, "This is how bad I want out of here."
So Charles Haley goes up into the GM's office, pees on the desk, and says, I mean, I guess you got to trade a guy at that point. Like, you don't want to. I mean, it's Charles Haley, and you sure as hell didn't have to trade him to the Cowboys, but it's like, I guess that's how you get traded. So, I mean, it's up to you. But if you ever wanted to just say, hey, F you to your boss and make him fire you, whatever the case may be, I guess you didn't have to show up for work. But, in that case, you're under contract, you want to be traded. I mean, I guess it would be on the GM's desk. That would be something that would be a problem. My Romo thing is, and you probably remember this I don't know if you're a Raider fan ever, but we used to do pre and post game from Raiderville, right in the middle of the parking lot at the Oakland Coliseum. And the first time I am doing the show with Bill, we're live, we're up on a big stage and all this kind of stuff. And the first show that we ever do together, I'm up there and Bill famously would be running late. So like 1 minute before the show and we're looking around and we're like, where's Romanowski? And all of a sudden I see him and he's kind of jogging because he wants to, he wants to make it. And he's got this, I can't even make it as big as it is. This gigantic cardboard, like your son or daughter would be doing, like for a school project, gigantic board. And he gets up there and we're like 30 seconds. The music's playing for the open for the pregame show. And I go, what do you got there? And he's like, well, this is my board. He had all his notes on it. He had a flip card with players from both teams. And it was this gigantic thing that he wanted to put on an easel, like an artist. And he wanted to reference it with like this pointer during the show. And I was like, dude, I don't have any kind of an art thing to put this up on, an easel or anything. And I said, I don't know where the hell you're going to put that. So like he sets it up on this thing and he's trying to reference it during the show. It was the funniest damn thing. He did it for like the first 4 or 5 weeks. And then he said, hell with it. It was like, we didn't know where to put it. Anyway. Yeah. 1 minute before the show, every single week, here comes Romo running to the show. And one of the reasons he was late all the time was because all these fans wanted to stop him, right? He'd stop and he'd sign autographs. And he was such a nice guy that he never wanted to let anybody down. So he was always signing autographs all the way across. So Romo's a great dude. But anyway, there you go. Romanowski telling the Charles Haley story. And there is your sweet, clean, family-friendly Caboose pistol. Anything else? That might have been the one where Ronnie Lott, that whole thing, Ronnie Lott. Yeah, he had this gigantic cheat sheet. It was unbelievable. It was like the biggest thing I'd ever seen in my life. That one's one too. Pissing on George Seifert's card. That was one. I don't know if that's a true story or not, but yeah, that was another one that was thrown out there. ESPN Radio on standby. I appreciate that. I will be jumping on with the guys here in about 5 minutes. So I know we're cutting this thing a little bit short tonight, and I apologize for that. But they wanted to talk some Niners, and so we'll do that in just a couple of minutes. So if you join me on ESPN Radio, that would be dandy. Thanks for watching on a Wednesday night. It is episode 222, getting you up to date on the 49ers as they finish up camp. Got the Chargers and Trey Lance and Jim Harbaugh coming in this weekend. We'll talk more about injuries and other things. Hopefully, maybe the Niners make another impact trade tomorrow. Like I said, Skyy Moore is going to be mostly impact on special teams, but not a bad thing. NFL Wire showed you some of the trades. The Bagent deal, probably the best story of the day. Trey Lance, how do you develop these young quarterbacks if they flame out the first time? Him, Anthony Richardson, and how to get traded. Charles Haley through the eyes of one Bill Romanowski. And there you go. That is episode 222. All right, the phone's not ringing yet. We'll talk to you on ESPN Radio in just a second. We'll talk a couple of 49ers. Please make sure that you subscribe to the channel, John Lund Unleashed on YouTube. Thank you for watching on X tonight, the Bay Area Sports Collective, LinkedIn, Facebook, any of those places. But if you please migrate over to John Lund Unleashed on YouTube, that would be dandy. Please have those alerts on. And if you would do me the biggest favor before you get out of here tonight and hit a like so that the algorithm thinks we are not half bad, that would be great. By the way, it's the, all you got to do, I think it's an ESPN app. So it's the national show on ESPN that's going on right now. So I'll be jumping on there right now. Have a great night, and we will talk to you tomorrow night. Keep those alerts on. Again, remember, questions, comments, thoughts. If you didn't get them on the chat room tonight, hit them right underneath here or on X at John Lund Radio. And for all things Unleashed, just go to johnlundunleashed.com. Have a great night.
Thanks for hanging out with John Lund Unleashed. We'll try to be better next time, though I wouldn't hold my breath. Please like and subscribe on the John Lund Unleashed Pod YouTube channel. Watch live shows weekdays at 8 a.m. on YouTube, Instagram, and X. And make sure to have your alerts on for shows throughout the day or night. All things Lund can be found at johnlundunleashed.com. johnlundunleashed.com.
Goodbye!